What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Mr. CPA podcast. I'm your host, Brian Credo, CPA, and on this podcast, we discuss self-improvement, personal finance, and all things accounting related. We got an awesome podcast lined up for you guys today, and I'm going to go into why I actually love accounting. I know everyone thinks I'm crazy when I say that because, it gets such a bad stigma because accountants are boring or the thing. Okay, on today's podcast, if you're on the fence about maybe why you should do accounting or you're not really sure what you want to get into, hopefully after watching today or hearing today's podcast, you understand why I think it's such a good profession to start your career in and why it can catapult you into so many different areas of literally anything you want to do, and why the skills that you build are going to help you in whatever it is that you choose to do long term. So the first thing I'm going to point out is you really only need a 4-year degree to start making a decent amount of money. This is so true. I only have my bachelor's degree and my CPA license, and I was pretty much able to get done with all my schooling within 5 years. To be honest with you guys, in my opinion, I'm going to go on a total side tangent, but I don't think it should take. I have a problem with the fact that it even takes 4 years. I wish they allowed the big firms, especially when you get out of college, I wish they allowed students to just go through a 2-year program like a trade school whereby you kind of learn the ins and outs of accounting and then you can start working. But for now, it is what it is, and you really only need a 4-year degree. And for the most part, I would say that getting a master's or anything like that, I've gone into this, and I've gone into this topic in previous videos, but unless you want to really, it's a personal goal of yours, I don't recommend you go get a master's degree, especially if you want to go into accounting. Because it's just not necessary, really. I don't think it is at all. I think you get the most bang for your buck once you start working. And the great thing about accounting is that you really only need to get your 4-year bachelor's degree in accounting, and then you can start working at a firm or start doing whatever it is you want to do with that degree. And what's great about that is typically starting salaries for associates, especially nowadays, how it's got super competitive, is anywhere between like $60,000 and $70,000 wherever it is that you live. Typically, if the cost of living is a little higher, then it's going to be a little more. If the cost of living is lower, then it's going to be less. But I think it's great that just with a 4-year degree, you can literally start working, and that is what you studied. And I guess the great thing about it too is that when you go to college for accounting, you decide to go work at a big firm, that is what you're going to do. You're going to apply the skills that you learned in college. I had so many friends in my college career that they did, they studied God knows what, and they ended up doing something completely different from your degree. One of my favorite things about the accounting is that you go to school for 4 years. For the most part, 2 of those or a year and a half is spent, doing the actual accounting work, intermediate accounting, cost accounting, learning all the different areas of accounting, auditing. And when you get out, you actually apply the skills that you learned in college. And I always say this, I feel like if you don't really conceptually understand the accounting in college, it's going to be really hard when you finally start working because you don't really grasp the concepts really. And when you're in practice, the more you conceptually know how to do these things, the better off you're going to be. So that's kind of the first thing why I love the profession and why I think it's such a great thing to get into at the beginning, because with a 4-year degree, you can start making a good amount of money and start building your career. The second thing is that it gives you a tangible skill where you can provide a service to someone. I always compare accounting, again, I'm going to say I love accounting like 5 times in this podcast, but I've always compared it to, I come from a blue collar background myself, and one thing that I always learned from my dad is that knowing how to provide a skill to someone, whether you're a carpenter, whether you're a welder, whatever it is, that stuff is always going to be valuable because you are in demand. You have an actual skill. I hate that sometimes a lot of the degrees that people that are pushed upon students nowadays are literally just write a book, read a report. I hate that. That's not a skill. Anybody can do that. But when you learn accounting, you're actually learning a skill, like if you were a mechanic or a welder or an engineer, where you're actually learning a skill where you can provide a service to someone. That is so important, so critical, and you can take that wherever you go. And that tangible skill, I'm telling you guys, the better you get at it, and the more of a service you can provide to whoever it is, whether it's a client, a customer, whoever it may be, you are going to be more in demand. And I think that's the beautiful part of accounting is that you go to school, you go to your accounting school, you get out your 4-year degree, you start making money, and then you can actually, day one, start providing a service to someone. Go work for a firm, go work for a company. You can actually have a skill that's tangible that you can take anywhere you go. And I always say this, the more you learn and the more of a skill you can build, that is the one thing nobody could take away from you. Jobs come and go, firms come and go, titles, it doesn't matter. What matters the most is the tangible skill you learn, and what goes in here is the most critical part of any career that you build. All right, the third thing, you learn the basics of financial statements and how financial statements are used. This is so important. And no matter what business you go into, I don't care if you want to be an entrepreneur, I don't care if you want to start your own, cooking business, whatever. At the end of the day, if your business isn't making money, eventually it's going to go out of business. And learning how to read a basic financial statement and learning basic accounting terms and terminology is so critical and so important to just you being a good financial professional overall. I have so many friends that did public accounting right when they graduated college. They started with me at a firm. We're there for 2 years, understand the basics, now do something completely different. But every time I talk to them, they tell me that they are so thankful and so grateful for the 2 years they spent not only getting their accounting degree, but then the 2 years they spent at a public accounting firm, because it taught them so much. It really taught them how to, again, understand financial lingo, understand what, debits and credits are, understand what assets, liabilities, equity, all these things in accounting you can actually take into your real life. It's funny, I make the reels and the TikTok videos about, how the accounting equation, once you really learn it, you can apply it to anything in life. I'll give you a perfect example. Let's say you buy a house today. And that house is $500,000, so $500,000, right? So let's say you buy a house for $500,000, so you have an asset, right, for $500,000, and let's just say you put a down payment of $20,000. Okay, I'm just gonna give this as easy as it can be. $20,000 down payment, and you finance it obviously for $480,000, right? So you have assets for $500,000, right? That's the house that you bought it for. That's the fair value of the house. You have an asset for $500,000. You have a liability for $480,000 because you owe $480,000 on the mortgage payment, right? Your mortgage, to the bank. And then you have $20,000 of equity. As you can see, assets $500,000 equal your equity of $20,000 that you put into the house on day one, and then $480,000 of liabilities that you owe to the bank. That's your accounting equation. And you can take this accounting equation to anything. And I have engraved this in my brain so much of just, being a CPA now for over 7 years, that these things I take into every part of my life, not only my professional life, but also my personal life as well. Okay, the fourth thing is that you have job security once you have a few years in, especially I would say after you have about 4 years in, you're like a senior supervisor hitting towards that manager level at a public accounting firm. You are going to be so in demand. It's going to be crazy. You're going to have to literally be like beating people off with a stick on how much people want you to work for them. At that point too, you can also decide, hey, I've built enough skills in my career where I feel I can maybe stand alone by myself and build something for myself. That's great. You have the skills, you have the knowledge to be able to do that. Let's say you work at a public accounting firm for a few years and you're like, you know what? I want to try something else. I want to try something new. After those first 4 years, in my personal opinion, I feel like you are well equipped to be able to do whatever the heck that you want to do. The skills that you built in those 4 years of being at a public accounting firm and getting your accounting degree you're gonna be able to transfer those skills to wherever you go. So after a few years, especially I would say 4 years in, you have a certain level of job security because of the skills that you learned and acquired through those, through your accounting degree and those first 4 years in public accounting. And then the last thing here is the skills you learn in accounting can be used in almost any job you want to do, and they're very transferable. Like I've said this before and I'll say it again, I have had so many people in my career that started with me in accounting that now do completely different things. And every time we joke and say that they are super thankful for the time they spent at the firm, learning the skills that they did because they are so transferable. For example, I have a friend that works in sales now, and he says that the work ethic that he built and the discipline that he built from being at a public accounting firm for a few years and getting his accounting degree really helped him catapult his career into something else. And now that he's in sales, he does completely something different from accounting. But now he's able to tell me that, hey, even when we get our monthly financial reports and my sales team doesn't really understand the concept of, gross profit or other things like that, or how our balance sheet looks like, or how our income statement is looking, and how, our SG&A expenses are too high, and so on and so forth. He's able to understand those things because of the accounting degree that he got and also his years in public accounting. And so in my opinion, it just makes you a deadly financial professional to be able to couple the fact that you know accounting and then you spend some time in public accounting, and you can couple those skills in business to do whatever it is that you want to do. So I hope today's podcast motivated you and kind of, started getting you thinking about why accounting might be the right choice for you. And if you have any questions, always feel free to shoot me a DM. Please leave a comment down below, rate us on Spotify, give us a review. And until next time, work hard, dress well. Peace.